Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name's Aaron Battle.
Welcome. My name is Kurt Robinson.
Today we're going to talk about magical recipes, how you can make your own diesel power at home.
Yeah, just using a few household appliances. Go down to your fish and chip shop and get their waste oil and then see if you can turn it into something to put it into your truck. And maybe you'll get an 80% discount on the fuel that you're using.
80%? That's a good discount.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. So also we talk about the emerging technology of Tesla's Powerwalls, these new batteries which can be used to store energy from solar panels, meaning you can keep your house permanently running off solar energy. And that way, maybe you can even disconnect totally from the grid. Maybe you don't need mains power anymore, and we're moving towards a decentralized energy society.
Move to Mars, build yourself an Earth ship. Well, not that far away. Outside the city, have your own power, grow your own food, make your own fuel.
Yep, build a greenhouse that keeps the temperature at a moderate or tropical temperature all year round, and that's kind of cool. Also, we talk a little bit about global warming, why I'm not sold on the idea of severe anthropogenic global warming, and why it's still important to look after the environment, even if you don't think global warming is real. Maybe
you can upsize to a little house.
Yep. A lot of people are moving into tiny houses of 6 square meters or 25 square meters, looking at saving money, becoming more economical, saving heaps of money on their mortgage, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases, and using that money towards better use, towards purchasing more interesting experiences, or perhaps using it for capital to create more innovative technologies.
Yeah, basically just free yourself from an economic jail that we've developed for ourselves and escape. Give yourself a little bit of liberty.
Yep, a little bit of liberty. All right, so press like on YouTube, press subscribe on YouTube, press like on Facebook, hover over the like button and press the get notifications button, because that means you're always going to know what we're doing, and you're probably going to see pictures of us naked dancing under the moonlight. And also press subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Pocket Casts, and also press share. We really love it when you press share, because that means we know we're getting our message out there, our ideas infecting the minds of young impressionable people. So press share so it goes on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook, and every time you press share, actually Aaron Battle is going to inject his eyeballs with canola oil.
Do I get a mixer?
Any way you can take it. Also, we really appreciate how so many people have been going onto our website on donate.theparadiseparadox.com and giving us a little bit of money, or in some cases a lot of money, donating by Bitcoin or by altcoins or by PayPal. We really appreciate it, because every time we open up those accounts and we see somebody has given us a little bit of money, we know we're actually introducing interesting ideas into your lives and maybe giving you a different perspective. So that's how we know these ideas are valuable, and that means something to us. So we do really love it. We appreciate when you do stuff like that. So do a little more of it. Help us out, support the show. Be a bro.
Be a part of it. Change the world, one world at a time.
We're talking a little bit about different ways that people are going to use technology to conserve energy, maybe to save money, and look at different ways of living so they can have maybe a more fulfilling life, or maybe to affect the environment positively as well, or at least not affect it negatively. And
I think it'd be good to discuss a few options where, people can feel a little more liberated, or not have to slave so much just to live.
Yeah.
That's essentially it. So opening up a few different options to technologies and fuels and methods of living, so that we're not wasting so much value in traffic on our way to work, or using the fuels that we are for electricity to heat, cool, and live within our traditional homes. So a few new ideas.
Yeah. So we've got things like on biofuel and solar panels, and these things are quickly becoming more and more possible, and some other ways to save money too. So of course, people are talking a lot these days about global warming or climate change, depending on your perspective. Now, personally, I don't really think global warming or climate change is anthropogenic climate change is such a big deal. I don't think it's as severe as what people make it out. And so sometimes I don't really pay much attention to the press on this, because I know how wild and sensationalistic the press can get on things like this. So it blows my mind sometimes, because I'll start talking to somebody about it on Facebook, and I'll say, well, I guess, there's something to this climate change. Obviously, human beings' actions are affecting the climate in some way. And then somebody else comes in and they're like waving their arms in the air and saying, we're gonna fucking die and the world's gonna like blow up into a ball of flames. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, where does this come from?
I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from crazy TV and maybe extreme weather. We are seeing a little extreme weather, like winters that have been colder than ever. A little bit, hotter climates than normal. But I think the question is, are humans the fault of all this? And what terms are we using? Because global warming and climate change are two totally different things. And I think they're not
totally different things, but
they're in the same basket. But I think the way that they're marketed to us is often incorrect.
Yeah. Well, I've heard people claim that it changed from global warming to climate change because oil companies wanted it to change that way, and they wanted to get a better angle on the marketing of this type of idea. But I've heard the opposite argument as well, that it's actually the people who think anthropogenic climate change is a real thing and a huge thing. It's also because if you call it global warming, then it's a very specific thing. You're talking about progressive increase or an exponential increase in temperature. But if you talk about climate change, well, you can say that's anything you want. If you see an extreme weather event, or if you see another mini ice age or anything like that, you can say, well, it's an anthropogenic climate change, and this fits in exactly with our hypothesis, which is it's an ad hoc hypothesis. And the weird thing about this is, I talk to people and they claim that there's this scientific consensus about it. And I remember I even had one conversation with a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, there's this consensus. And I was like, okay, so what value does a scientific consensus actually have? And I can mention examples like 200 years ago, all scientists, all reputable scientists, there was a scientific consensus that meteorites didn't exist. Now, that's not true, at least according to our modern science. So the question is, what value does scientific consensus actually have? The answer is not a lot. But then I said, okay, you have to show me evidence that there's a scientific consensus. And normally these people say, I don't have any evidence. I just read it in the newspaper. And I'm like, really? If you saw something scrawled on a bathroom wall, would you come out and tell me that that's news? Because that's about the level of evidence that you're providing me here. Now, if you look at I don't know if there's probably some other studies which are better, but one of the studies which is commonly cited is Doran Zimmerman. And what Doran Zimmerman actually did was send this poll to about 10,000 climate scientists, and then about 3,000 of them responded. Doran and Zimmerman narrowed it down to 79 respondents who they thought were qualified on the question. And then they said, well, 97% of the respondents agree with it. And you can see why this is kind of nonsense, because it's saying it's a 97% consensus, but they've only actually looked at about, what's that, less than 1% of the people that they originally polled. So if you repeated this experiment, if you repeated it using the same methodology, chances are you would get a very different result. And if you repeat it at 10 times, you might get wildly different results.
I'm shocked they can even publish information like that.
Well, it's freedom of speech, and that's why you need to be careful what you're reading. But these are some of the things that the scientists said when polled. I mean, obviously they asked the standard questions, I guess questions you'd expect them to ask in this poll. They asked if over the last 200 years, do you think the temperature has gone up or down or stayed the same? And then the second question was, do you think human action has had a significant effect on the climate, on climate change? And so the scientists who they actually ended up putting in the study said yes. 97% of them did. But then they had a comments section, and these are some of the comments which the scientists wrote down. This is a very simplistic and biased questionnaire. That's one. Scientific issues cannot be decided by a vote of scientists. That's another one. I'm not sure what you are trying to prove, but you will undoubtedly be able to prove your pre-existing opinion with this survey. I'm sorry I even started it. So you have to wonder how scientific that methodology actually is. So, but you know what? I do think anthropogenic climate change is a real thing. I do think humans have an effect on the environment. I don't know to what extent, but I do also think that we should take care of the environment because we have to live here, Don't mess up your home. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I can say I'm a fan of the planet. I mean, we don't have another one. I don't know any. I don't have any friends on any other planets, or I don't know anyone from any other planet. I don't think. But have we made an effect on the planet? We'll just fly into any major city and have a look at the landscape. Yeah, it's pretty easy to see what effect we've had. Yeah. But I mean, why are people still arguing this?
Because it's a sensational argument, it's a political issue, it's a way to secure funds for special interests, because they're working with public funds. They're basically, they're getting taxpayer money, so they're getting stolen money, and they don't have to worry about how it's acquired. They just get it and do what they want with it.
Good, more reason to try and escape this and get away from the trap of having to be told which fuels to use and the one electricity type that's coming into your house, irrespective of whether you're buying, renewable electricity or it's like, really grinds my gears a little bit is everyone that talks about renewable energy and they're still using okay, let's go get an electric car and plug it in the wall. But where does that energy come from?
Well, normally it comes from coal if you live in Australia. I don't know, in Mexico, I'm not sure of the main power sources.
No, I've got no idea either. It's a little bit unconscious of me.
Yeah, but it's likely fossil fuels. I don't think Mexico has many nuclear power plants. Australia definitely. I mean, it has no nuclear power plants. It does have one or two reactors for medical purposes, but that's it.
Yeah. Well, cool. So the electricity that we're using, irrespective of where it's coming from and what it's generating, I thought it was cool to have a look at the technology side. So I mentioned to you the Baghdad battery, which I originally thought was like an Egyptian battery of some kind. So I thought, that sounds like a cool idea, ancient technology making a comeback.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what it is. And there's a few videos on YouTube that shows people making them, or you can find documentaries quite easy. There's documents everywhere. But we're essentially talking about an iron rod that's insulated by cork or wood of some kind, with a casing, like a cylinder of copper, like a copper sheet wrapped around the outside, and then lowered into like ionic charged water, or like what we would probably consider like a battery acid.
Yep.
And then it's put into it was found in a little clay pot with like a little wooden lid. And it's like, this is technology that they found that was 2,000 years old. Is it really that different to what we're using now in the case of batteries or storing, mobile electricity?
Yeah. Well, it's some things are classic, I guess. I don't know.
But it's not like it's something you don't believe. It's like what the ancient Egyptians had batteries, like whatever. What do they need to charge? It's like they're just commonly dismissed. But anyway, it's the same kind of design we're using now.
So this one was in the Middle East, right? You said it's from Baghdad.
Well, it was called the Baghdad battery because they found it in or nearby Baghdad.
Right.
But I thought it was the Egyptian battery. I mean, that's what I looked for when I heard from it. But I'm not sure why.
So there might be one. There's probably one in Egypt as well.
Well, I'm sure if there was one, and I was doing pretty magic tricks back then, lighting. I don't know what did they have? I've got no idea. Let's say like maybe primitive light bulbs of some kind.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but magic. Let's say.
Or it's not like one of these guys that walk around at bars and they give the two people electrodes and everybody holds hands and they all get electrocuted.
That would have been cool. Like, it's a party trick.
This is what people do for fun in Mexico.
Have you seen those games? They do it here.
You never seen that?
I mean, they do it here too. No, I've seen it on cruise boats and stuff. But
Okay.
I've never been to a bar where they've done that. Actually, I lie. That's how good the bars are. No, I did see it in Cancun a few years back.
All right.
Yeah, it's like,
And then the guy asks you for 5 pesos, and you're like, "What? I'm paying to be tortured? What is wrong with you?"
No, well, usually these places are open bars, so you're not even sure what he's saying or doing.
Well, because you're so drunk.
Well, I mean, I might have been.
All right. Well, I don't think the Baghdad battery would produce more than 1.5 volts, so it's probably not enough to give you a shock anyway.
No, I don't know how effective they were, but the one that was recreated on the YouTube video I was watching had like 9 millivolts. So, I don't know how useful that is, but I mean, nevertheless, it's like some kind of ancient technology that we decided to keep using today.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So let's see. So one important technology related to that is the Tesla Powerwall. So the Tesla Powerwall is this device you can put it on your wall, maybe stick it in your garage. It doesn't take up much space, and it's going to store the electricity that you get from your solar panels. So I was looking at some figures. I mean, the Powerwall itself cost about $3,500, and in Australia, so that's US dollars. Sorry, $3,500 US dollars. In Australia, solar panels cost. If you want to get 3 kilowatt hours worth of solar panels, stick them on your roof, it will cost about 4,500 Australian dollars. In the US, it would cost about 2,900. So, you put these two together, you got the solar panels and you got the Powerwall. It would cost you less than $10,000, and that will stop you being dependent on mains power, and you're stop using that fossil fuel that you're probably using on nuclear power if you don't like nuclear power. And if you're concerned about global warming or climate change, this is a direct way that you can start cutting down your dependence. And I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think if people were more conscious of how much electricity they were using, and they had some way of measuring that, then they probably wouldn't use as much electricity as they are using, without thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty a bit like water, people that are running off water rain tanks. It's like, you're aware that you might only have, one big tank of water, and you're pretty aware of how long that lasts and how long it's been since it hasn't rained. It's like, it's a nice little way of connecting to your environment. So, I mean, if you had a similar setup where you're like, well, we've only got half battery left, it's going to take at least 2 sunny days to refill them.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they'll last for, but having that kind of connection with your environment, I think, is quite healthy.
Yeah, that's true. That it puts gives you this direct investment in conserving energy. Yeah.
And it's, I mean,
or buying more solar panels, depending how you look at it.
It's fine. I mean, how much do you say? 2,700 or?
It's $2,900 US dollars in the US, or 4,500 Australian dollars in Australia.
That doesn't seem that crazy.
Yeah. It's they're getting cheaper and cheaper, and apparently that's a reasonable figure to power a small home.
Excellent. So, I mean, and that's like the battery, solar panels. I mean, that seems pretty standard. I mean, you got wind turbines and water turbines you can use, or I'm assuming you can connect a bike up to it, like exercise bike, and just get charging if you want to get your phone charged or something. No, I mean, the cool thing is there's options now.
Yes.
Like it just seems so realistically and affordable in hand, which is amazing for people that want to build houses away from civilization.
Yeah. So I remember I was listening to this speech by a venture capitalist, and he was talking about these mega trends, and one of them, of course, is decentralization. And so it looks like, of course, we see things like decentralization in data distribution and currency with Bitcoin, but then it's extending even further to the energy sector. So this is one way which decentralization is going to affect us. Like, we don't have to be connected to mains power anymore if we don't want. We can have our own house out in the bush, maybe. So it makes distant living more accessible too. So maybe people who want to get out of the cities and find some cheap land somewhere else, especially in Australia where there's so much land that's pretty much unused. You could head out and you don't have to live in the city.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the big dependent is we're dependent on energy, and the only way to get connected would be to look at where the roads are and where the power lines are, and where running water is. But if you're able to set that up yourself, there's really no limit on where you can go and live. And anywhere there's land outside the cities. It's common sense that it's cheaper outside, away from the CBD of the cities, and you don't want that. You don't want that noise. I don't.
And if you work over the internet, if you have a YouTube channel or something, or you're a web developer and you don't need to be in the office, maybe you find this other cheaper way of living and have your own garden or something like that. And I think that's something people are starting to look at. So yeah.
Well, I'm super interested in earth ships. I think that was something back in like 1970s. There was an American architect, Michael Reynolds, that came out with that term of earthship, and it was because it was the whole notion of being aware of the planet and understanding the concept of recycling and wanting to build something out of recycled materials that minimized the amount of electricity it would need to heat itself or to cool itself. So it's made out of a lot of them are semi-underground, and walls of tires or walls of bottles and concrete, like glass bottle windows and things like this. And then they were building them then with older style battery packs and different types of technology, not like what you're talking about now that are like packaged units that are designed and ready to go into these places. So now it's like there's no problem looking at those solutions. You don't need to bring in some kind of electrical engineer to redesign, the way a house uses electricity. It's like, we already know how to use electricity. Bring your appliances. There's your power wall, and there's your solar panels, and I'm sure everything just clicks together.
Well, Elon Musk makes it sound really easy. I'm sure it's in his interest to make things easy for his customers. But we'll see how it comes out when more and more people start getting these units. And they're also building like a huge it looks like a power factory out, I think, in the desert in Nevada. So it can just suck up all this solar energy. And he reckons if you build a few hundred of these around the world, then it's going to provide all of the power needed in houses, and then you build a few hundred more, and then he said like 200 billion units, like 200 billion power walls would be enough to supply all the energy needs of houses and cars all around the world, which is pretty crazy to think about. And that's these technologies. He has patents on them, but he's like guaranteeing that he's never going to enforce the patents. So that means that people can build on this technology. People can make them themselves, or come up with another company to compete with them. And then we're going to see a exponential growth in this technology over the next few years, and they'll get more and more efficient, and then our dependence on fossil fuels is going to be lower and lower and lower.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm visualizing communities that are going to be smaller and more spread out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the concept of larger governments looking after big groups of people, that's going to diminish as well. So people are going to be freer, more spread out. There's so much land to go out and start growing your own produce.
Yeah.
To grow your own food. I like the quote by Ron Finley. The growing food is like printing money. I'm sure you've heard of that.
No, I never heard that one.
Yeah, now he's the what's he called? He's like the I had the term. It's the he's in like southern LA, and he's like the guerrilla. What's it? The guerrilla gardener.
Guerrilla gardener.
Okay. Something like that.
Yeah.
And so he just got up one day and said, we need to start growing. We need food. So he started growing stuff all over the city where, whether you're allowed to or not, I just got the idea, like, there's some land, I'm growing stuff on it. And he just started covering all of like South LA. So I thought, it's a cool idea. Growing food is like printing money. In a way it is. Yeah. But it's not. It's not that at all, because growing food is creating value. Printing money is like removing value. So it's like, I get what he's saying, but obviously he doesn't get what the banks are doing. Otherwise he probably wouldn't have said it that way. But
wow, that's the common vernacular. So.
It is, but I thought it was cool. It's like a nice. But
yeah, you're right. Actually, growing food, growing your own food is actually more valuable than printing money.
I've accidentally grown plants at my house just by throwing out scraps. And, I hope to harvest 5 tomatoes soon. Yeah. So, and I guess in a way that is kind of like, I'm going to go back on it and say it is like printing money, because now I don't need to buy those 5 tomatoes. Now I have them. So
you already have them. So you skip one step in the process.
So like I'm cheating, I guess.
Yeah. Cheating the money system by growing your own food. Yeah.
Who would have thought? That easy.
Yeah. So that's cool.
And a lot of these Earth ships have like their setup, so their front windows are directed to early morning sunlight, which makes it like a perfect greenhouse, because they heat up in the morning and they stay that level of warm, humid through the afternoon and night. So the plants are solid tropical all the time. It's like, and some of the designs are really, you design them any way you want. They really look like alien bases from Mars, like the curves and I don't know much about architecture, but they're not the traditional house at all.
Right.
So
okay, it's an interesting description. Yeah,
that's my plug on Earth ships. Check them out.
Yeah, cool. So I'll talk a bit about tiny houses as well.
Definitely.
Let's take a break.
Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo Tiempo de nacer.
Tiny houses. So this is an interesting thing. I was looking at the average sizes of houses in the United States and in Australia, and they're so much bigger than I thought, almost twice as big as I thought. I thought the average size of a house was about 130 square meters, like 1,500 square feet. It's actually about 2,200 square feet or 230 square meters, and 2,400 square feet, 220 square meters. And this is partly due to regulation, because what happens is the building companies lobby. They don't want people coming in and stealing their business. They don't want some young upstart who's willing to do things with some new efficient ways of building and stealing all their business. They want to keep their business established and maintain that oligopoly for a long time. So they lobby for building codes which have things like a minimum size that you need to build a home. Like, they might say the minimum size is 130 square meters, and you can't build a home that's smaller than that. The stated intention is to protect people from slumlords, but in my opinion, that's a bunch of nonsense. Like, if you don't want to live in a slum, you don't necessarily have to, and outlawing slums doesn't actually remove the problem of housing. So that's to me that's total nonsense.
What happens if they want to live in a slum?
Yeah, exactly. What if you want to save money? Well, not necessarily a slum, but what if you want to live in a small house? And that's the whole point of the tiny house movement. So the thing is, what people do, especially in the United States, to evade the building codes, they put wheels on their house, or they put the house on wheels. And that way it's not classed actually as a house. It's classed as like a trailer or like a mobile home. So it doesn't have to comply with the building codes. And that makes it a lot easier for them to do this type of thing. And so people are building homes as small as 6 square meters, which is like 70 square feet. Really small. I don't know if you can imagine. It's probably smaller than this room.
I have seen some of the pictures of them, and they're very well designed. They have tables that fold out of the walls and lounges that convert. I mean, they're very clever.
Yes. So they have to learn to make an efficient use of space. And so for people who are saying, maybe I don't want to spend my life paying off a mortgage, like paying 1/3 of my income for 30 years of, 30 years taken out of my working life. So I'm like paying off this house for so many years. They say instead, well, why don't I just save money and buy one of these things? And some people make them purportedly for as little as $9,000, but the average cost is about $23,000 US. That's still pretty good. Like, to buy a house.
The issue I see is not that you're paying it off for 30 years.
Yeah.
That you have to work for 30 years just to play the game. It's like working life.
You buy this house. Well, you don't buy the house. You get a mortgage to buy the house, and then you're buying into this contract, like this until death type contract. It's not something which seems fiscally prudent to me. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that as well. They're like opting out of this whole idea.
Well, it's what everyone does. So it seems so normal. But when you can work 10 years, 15 years and retire, and I'm not talking about being some crazy entrepreneur starting companies and stuff. I'm talking about just being smart with your money, working 10 years, saving, building a little house somewhere you like, and then traveling where you want, picking up jobs where you like, and modifying your lifestyle to suit what you feel like doing today, opposed to shit, it's Tuesday, I'm better get in traffic again.
Yeah. Well, so some of these people are saying stuff like, I read one quote, this guy, like previously he didn't really have much disposable income, but now he's like, this year I went, took the family to Peru. So he said it's like we live in a tiny house and that's that's our day-to-day life. But when we want to get crazy and go for a holiday, we're playing with the big boys. It's like we're going on the holidays that rich people take.
I do what I want.
Whatever you want.
Something
Whatever
like
you
that.
want, it's possible. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool. And people are setting up communities like they will build a piece of land and that they will build like, 10 or 15 of these tiny houses and they have a communal area. So it's like the communal area is like an extension of your home. Instead of you having your backyard, which is private, you could share it with your neighbors and, have social interaction as well. So that sounds fucking great. I think it's brilliant.
Well, I think we all like school. Like I enjoyed school to a certain extent for the social lunch times, the playing sports, the hanging out, right?
Fair enough.
It's like, you need to do something, you need to make the most of it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are too busy trapped in a cycle where we're pulled away from social. Like you don't have time to visit your family anymore. Yeah, I know because I've got an alternative perspective living here in Mexico, I see a lot of my family kind of live really close. And they share a lot of activities. So this type of housing, communities, villages are going to allow for that again.
Yeah, and that's true. You could build a family commune type deal and, you're sharing food and having your parents over for lunch every day or something like that. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, each to their own. It's an option. It's there if that's what you like.
Yeah. So that's an interesting idea, and so I mean the most of these I said like that figure 6 square meters. Most of them are between 25 and 45 square meters, like 300 to 500 square feet. So it's not a huge thing, but I mean plenty of people in like New York City would live in an apartment that size. But then you have the option of going out of the city, buying a land which is a lot cheaper than real estate in New York City, and living humbly, but in finding a way to enjoy everything that you want in your life, and just structuring your life a little differently, and getting your enjoyment in slightly different ways. Yeah. So,
I mean, you mentioned like restructuring your life. And, let's say that we got in the swing of, 30 years of contracted work.
Yeah.
And, we're going to pay off a house. I thought it'd be cool to have a look at how much money we're actually spending on that type of lifestyle, like energy-wise. You concern fuel and the movements of all that, moving around the city, getting from home to work. Yep. And all that kind of thing. So we did have a look at some stats, and after we worked at the best way to analyse what the stats actually meant. Back on a report produced by the ANZ Bank on data that was from 2008 in Australia, it looked at households that had cars, how much fuel are actually like petrol fuel they were consuming, and like the average house with a car or more is using like 39 litres of petrol.
Yeah, so it was about 79% of the households have at least one car, and of those households they were using 39 litres of petrol per week, which is about 10.3 American gallons. Yeah, so I mean at today's price, that's like $55 a week that they're spending out of their earnings. So I mean, for some people after tax, you're a young guy in your apprenticeship. Yeah. I mean, you're talking more than maybe 10-15% of your wage. Yeah, well, if you're an apprenticeship, some of those guys earn like $300 a week. So that could, that's like 16-18% of your income. It could be. So we thought it'd be cool. Let's look at other ways you can get your car rolling without having to commit yourself to that. Because I mean that's like, let's say between 10 and 20% per week that you're gonna put. I mean, that's before you even start paying your mortgage or your rent. I mean, that's just icing on the cake.
that you need to pay for fuel just to facilitate, your 9 to 5, which I think is pretty sick.
Yeah. Spending so much of your money just getting to work. Yeah.
Which isn't cool. So, I've been excited about this idea of biodiesel. And although some people was like, well, you know what? It doesn't really save the planet. Like, you're still burning some kind of fossil fuel. It's like, well, irrespective of that, you are liberating yourself financially to look for other options. So, sometimes you need to save a little cash before you can jump to something else. But in the meantime, to pick up a diesel car, to move to a biodiesel is relatively in the same market as what you're going to pay for a petrol car anyway. So, and I found it extremely interesting how easy it is to make biodiesel. As long as you can acquire the ingredients. There's a few videos online that step you through what you need to get to make biodiesel. And so firstly, it's pretty common knowledge that you need some kind of oil, some kind of vegetable oil. So you need, and the recipe that I found was 3 gallons of vegetable oil, and you mix that's in one bucket or one large mix-in bottle, let's say, and you also need half a gallon of methanol mixed with 70 grams of lye. And so to understand how this works is you need to clean the oil first. So you can't put in just, I've seen videos of people pour in dirty oil straight into their 1980 model Mercedes. And it's running fine. It smells like popcorn. It's like, okay, I don't know if that's true. Okay, I wouldn't do that. I'd be cleaning the oil first, at least drain it through some kind of fine strainer.
Yep.
Get rid of all, the excess chip and chicken wing or whatever you had in that oil.
Yep.
So separate, clean your oil. Make a mix of half a gallon of methanol with 70 grams of lye. Mix that up well. Then once that's mixed, mix them together and let it sit for 3 or 4 days. Now, after what that does is it gets rid of all the impurities out of the process. Produces like a glycerin, which is like from my experience of Fight Club, is what they use to make soap. So it's like a base of some kind, and that's in the bottom. So once you pour your biodiesel off that, and you leave your glycerin in the bottom of the tub, then you've pretty much got a fuel that you can pour into your vehicle. Now, I've got the recipe in gallons, and I didn't do the conversion to liters. But what it works out is that you can make what is about $10 worth of petrol for $10 worth of diesel for about $2 for the same amount. So so you're making,
providing you can get the waste oil for free. So if you go to your fish and chip shop or you take away and say, hey, can I get your oil? And they say yes, then bingo.
Yeah. So it's debatable to say whether it's economical for many people, because you need to get this oil first. And, if the whole community switches onto it and they're all running around collecting oil, then, maybe the fish and chip shops might switch on to, hey, we can sell this. Like there's quite a bit of it. There's a need now for oil with hipsters that want to put biodiesel into their engines.
Yeah. But then, they're never going to sell it for as much as diesel at the service station, because that wouldn't make sense, because you still need to process it and everything. What
makes sense is a community group to get together and start collecting as a team and start, finding getting a little fabrication together and maybe even reselling it to the community.
Yeah.
That'd be great for communities to start producing their own fuel.
Yep.
But if you're at that stage, you're probably not going to work anymore. You've already worked out. You've already got your own business going on. You're now a biodiesel manufacturer.
Yeah, or you're living in like an urban farm or something. Yeah.
See, what I thought was maybe, how can you produce this biodiesel? Because it can't be as good as the real thing, can it? Like,
I have no idea.
well, I mean,
It's not really my area of expertise. Yeah.
mine neither. So I spent a little bit of time and looking this up. I thought, okay, how can you produce the same diesel for like a fifth of the cost of diesel? Like, it can't be that easy. And it didn't take me that long to find out that with an unchanged engine, like, it doesn't affect it. And even on MythBusters, they did a test, and I don't think they added in the methanol and they did the lye to clean the impurities. I think they just poured it straight in, like just cooking oil or vegetable oil.
Yep.
And they said
straight from the bottle though. Not from.
I know. I think it was recycled.
It was waste oil. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think they just cleaned it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't like treated or anything. And they said you do lose 10% power.
Yeah, but the question would also be, how much does it corrode the engine, or how much does it affect the engine, as opposed to using regular diesel?
Well, that's the thing. They actually say that using biodiesel, because of the chemical qualities of it, it actually does the opposite, and it prolongs the life of the engine.
Wow.
It's actually more lubricating to the engine than a petroleum-based diesel.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
You might lose. I mean, I'm not sure whether you do lose 10%, because there's reports saying that you don't.
It depends on how much you clean the fuel as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you treat it and you make it, if you treat the fuel, I mean the diesel, and you clean out you make sure no glycerin gets into your engine. Like, you're only using like the top liquid. Then apparently, like, it extends the life of your diesel engine because of the lubricating qualities, and it's like your engine and your power is completely unaffected. So I thought, okay, that sounds pretty crazy. As in, this is some kind of almost like a lie that I was believing. I mean, I was never told this, but I just assumed that you go and buy your diesel, it's a better product.
Yeah.
But then I started scratching at the idea, and this concept of using vegetable oil in engines isn't exactly new at all. Back in 1895.
Yep.
So a little while ago, we're talking about this dude, Dr. Rudolf Diesel. That's his name.
Okay.
He apparently developed the first diesel engine to run on vegetable oil. So that's what it was supposed to do in the first place.
My uncle's name was Dr. Hans Hopkin Garbage Bin, and he was the guy who invented the garbage bin.
Is that real?
The guy invented named Diesel. I think that's real. I hope that's real.
I mean, you should be a billionaire. The garbage bin is like in every house.
And collecting royalties.
Okay, is this real? I need to check. But apparently he didn't use vegetable oil. He used some kind of peanut oil, and it was on World Exhibition in Paris, back in
at the World Fair,
at about 1900. Like, it does seem very, very square, these details. But I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I want to get a diesel engine, and I want to make this fuel, and let's see what we can do. But
and how is it in terms of emissions?
Okay, no, I did check that out too. Before we jump to like emissions, we need to look at the whole life cycle of like the fuel, like the way it's made as well. Because we're talking about a recycled product. I don't know how diesel's made, like real diesel. But I mean, you look at the way they pulling petrol out of the Gulf of Mexico and what they messed up there. It's like it's bigger than just burning your fuel.
Yep.
I mean, it's like how
absolutely oil spills, so environmentally damaging. So if we can use peanut oil instead, then why not?
Yeah, and they're delicious.
Delicious engines.
Well, the stats I got for biodiesel, and I thought it was important to make sure that you're aware of, like, we're talking about recycled products. So on top of that, it's like 80% less carbon emissions, as in carbon dioxide emissions. There's no sulfur in the fuel, so I'm not sure what burnt sulfur does, or what emission that does, but apparently 100% no sulfur is supposed to be like a That's a positive.
Okay.
There's a 90% reduction on unburnt hydrocarbons, 75% and 90% on aromatic hydrocarbons. So, I mean, you don't have the same smell, I'm assuming. Like,
Right.
I mean, I was caught in traffic today, and that's not where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, there's jokes saying that you can't, like, it does smell like cooking. And that's not such a bad thing, except I think it might make you hungry. And I mean, I'm not sure whether this is a joke, but 90% reduction on cancer. So
All right.
I guess I mean it could be possible,
Yeah.
but just get out of the city. Just don't be with all that smog and traffic.
Yeah. 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 Well, maybe a lot of people in the community will start using this peanut oil and stuff. I mean, I figure there must be, like, if you use canola oil, and I do use it sometimes, but I don't think it's healthy at all. It's really probably very bad for you. And so canola oil, or the stuff they just call vegetable oil, like these mysterious vegetables. What the hell are they putting in that? Who knows? So that stuff, I know it's probably like the bottom of the barrel in terms of human consumption. But I'm sure there must be a level a little bit below that, like maybe something that's a bit less processed. Maybe it doesn't need to be processed so much for human consumption. And that's probably the stuff that they throw out at the canola factory where they make the canola seeds. And then you could probably use that if you had some sort of deal with the canola factory. You could arrange to get that, what is to them waste oil, and use it in a new way. And that could be something to, again, significantly reduce the fossil fuel usage.
I think if people were serious and they switched onto this quick, canola would replace that brand at the top of your petrol pump. Like I'm sure there's some smart technical marketing people in those companies that would say, you know what, we can make a whole lot more money just fueling cars rather than supermarkets. We know
canola oil is really shit for you, so why don't we put it in your car instead?
It's pretty already that grade. It's pretty already diesel grade.
Yep. Diesel grade canola oil. Yep. The real name of canola is actually rapeseed. Canola is just the brand name. Like, what can we call this instead of violation seed? Let's call it Canadian oil, canola oil. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
They're geniuses.
Yeah. There's a lot of emails circulating about that, saying how canola oil is like, it's, I don't know what they say. I made a joke about it, saying canola oil is actually squeezed from the pores of Canadian teens. So don't support canola oil if you want to make sure that Canadians aren't sold into slavery.
Don't do it.
Anyway.
I got nothing to say about that.
Yeah. They say all types of stuff. They say it rots your brain or something. I don't think that's true, but I don't think it's very good for you. Yep. No,
I just wanted to wrap up the whole biodiesel thing. I mean, there's a few other details in there with I guess probably maybe better ways of making it. I mean, that's just a way that I found online that seemed easy enough with materials that you can commonly find, and maybe it isn't the best step or the right step into being more eco-friendly, but not supporting the petrodollar and moving away from a petrol economy is going to help the community more than I think people are aware of.
Yeah. Well, if it's really as cheap as you say, like if it costs 20% of what diesel does, then you can actually, I mean, what commonly happens when people have more disposable income, they will choose to buy products that are more environmentally friendly. So even if using this biodiesel isn't that great for the environment, then those savings get passed on to other areas. Or people even use that money that they save to develop a new technology, which is useful again. So, it's small steps.
And it's not worse for the environment.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like it's a bad step. But the innovation of extra money and extra focus going into greener fuels can only move into a good step once we start moving away from where we are.
Now, did you have something to say about those fermented fuels as well?
Well, there was a case I found where there was a guy that he's looking at. He found a bacteria that was able to, because originally they started using like ethanol-based fuels as like a substitution. So the problem with that is there's really only a certain range of vegetable product that you can use to produce that type of fuel, or that type of sugar to make the ethanol. So you're really down to like sugar cane or the stalks of corn crops, things like that. But there's a scientist, Steve Hutchinson from the University of Maryland. He came across a bacteria where he was able to use the bacteria breaks down pretty much any type of vegetable matter. So what that means is, from what he's actually trying to do is understanding the process and create like a biological or a chemical formula to utilize to break down any or all vegetable matter, which means we can use all vegetable matter to create the exact same ethanol.
All right. Okay, and then then we can just use engines that run on ethanol, and away we go.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
This is, I think it's only like recent, like this is only in the last year or two. So I'm not sure how far he's come along with that. But there's a cool video about it, so we'll throw that in the links. But that kind of links into like using algae and algae to create like biomass and different fuels like that. But I didn't come across a case that was easy. Like it seems like
so there's no out of the box solution for algae fuel yet.
No, I just thought it's unless I can do it. I thought I'll leave it on the on the chalkboard. But you mentioned that there's ways of setting up like big industrial fish tanks that have algae and systems.
Like creating a small ecosystem in an aquarium, like in your home, and then you use it as a fish farm. And there's certain algae or certain plants that you can get, which will apparently clean the water. So it needs to be rather big, this aquarium, like not like a goldfish bowl in the corner. We're talking several cubic meters. But apparently it's possible to create this aquarium that's a self-sustaining ecosystem, and then you can you put that on our magical farm out in Mazamitla or wherever. We have this huge fish farm, and then we can eat some of the fish, and we're growing food as well, and stuff like this.
You just installed a self-sufficient life cycle fish tank.
Yep. That's the idea, and then of course we could have the like a bunch of Tesla power walls sticking on there, and out in this community we have a bunch of tiny houses that we made, and maybe Tesla is going to release a Model 3, a new electric vehicle, which costs about $35,000. So they're getting cheaper and cheaper every year. There's like now it's almost a middle class vehicle that we could power off the solar panels, or we could even you were saying that there were kits that you can convert your existing vehicle into an electric vehicle.
Yeah, I've seen electric kits for like the old school VW Combi and the Bug. or the bocho here in Mexico, commonly named as.
Yep.
And they're not that expensive. I mean, if you're talking about battery technology getting a lot better, because I think that's the expensive part, getting the battery pack and the setup. But the engines itself, I think, are only like maybe $5,000, and they're designed just to bolt on to the existing gearbox system for these 1600, engines. So, and they look really neat. So I don't know, maybe it's a little business idea of buying cheap cars and tuning them up with electric parts, and then reselling them or using them to get from the city to the country.
Yeah.
But the way you're explaining these like power walls, I imagine like an outside toilet type, that size tool shed with next to a tree with power points, just out in the middle of nowhere. Big battery box and grab the tools and we're going to build some more little houses and we've got these cabins up all through the mountains. This community, I don't know, like waterfalls and fairies and I don't know. It sounds cool.
Yeah, we get the industrial sized, like 1 gigawatt hour the power wall, and then we're starting a whole community out in Pueblo or something, out in the middle of nowhere, running around. Yeah, sorry.
High in the mountains, so there's no for this global warming and the melting of the ice caps. We don't have to worry about the rising water. I don't know. We might have beachfront by then. I don't know how high can the water go.
Yeah, so we plug in a hydroelectric unit. That's another interesting thing I saw just briefly. This hydric electric unit, and it's like a floating device. So you put it in the river, and it's non-disruptive, and that can generate electricity too. So you can be getting solar, and if there's no sun for some reason, then you're getting it from the water, and then you're storing it in the power wall, and you're using that to start your car, or you're growing your own vegetables and fermenting them, so you can make ethanol fuel, or going around the community and getting the garbage and converting it into oil. That's another possibility. And
so many options. I'm thinking about sauerkraut, growing your own cabbages and fermenting them.
Sauerkraut fuel, sauerkraut.
Well, fuel for this machine. you got to fuel the primary first. So good food. But I mean, that's the whole idea of getting cheaper real estate away from the cities, where you can explore these kind of options and grow these kind of communities and change the way you live. I think if we change the way we live, we wouldn't consume as much electricity. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Or fuel.
Yeah.
Like it just changes the way you live your life.
Yep.
Adventure time.
Yeah. Cool. So those are some great ways which we might see the world changing in a few years. Like maybe people won't be living in cities so much to set up their own communities because they have more accessibility through the internet to make money, or they find other ways to get by using the combination of all of these technologies. And that's going to be very interesting. You hear people talk about overpopulation, but there's so much space on the Earth's surface, even on land, that's still not used. So, so I think that's a great way we can work towards a more sustainable future for the human race.
We won't even need to build them.
Yeah,
we'll have 3D printers just doing circles and building teepees.
Yeah.
I just got to turn up.
Yeah. Yeah. 3D printers building our houses for us. That could be a possibility too. Yeah. Great. Okay. So my name's Kurt Robinson.
My name's Aaron Bassel.
And this is the Paradise Paradox. So press like on YouTube, press subscribe on YouTube, press like on Facebook, press the get notifications button on Facebook, like hover over the like button and press get notifications so you can be sure to get everything we're talking about and be a part of the conversation. Jump in there, leave us a comment, tell us what you think. We'd love to hear your opinion. and press subscribe on iTunes and Pocket Cast so you can get those regular updates and keep listening to us and hearing these new ideas. And of course, if you're feeling in the mood, and I hope you are, jump on donate.theparadiseparadox.com. We love receiving donations from our listeners. All the donations that we're receiving, we're very appreciative. We're very grateful because it says to us that this is something valuable, that we're doing something worthwhile. And I would love it if you found a new idea or you hadn't thought of a combination of ideas that were presented in this podcast, then you go on donate.theparadiseparadox.com and you give us a little donation. Suggested donation is $1 per episode that you like, and we really love you guys so much for helping us out like that. Also, if you another way you can help us out and show a little support. If you're thinking of buying something from Amazon, like buying some books, maybe you're going to buy some books or movies about sustainable technology or information about new fuels, you could go on our website, www.theparadiseparadox.com, and press on the Shop Amazon link at the top there. And this isn't going to cost you anything extra, except for those 2 seconds it takes you to click onto our website. But this means that we receive a small commission of everything that you buy on Amazon. So maybe you're going to buy some books or movies or electronics. Buy something cool for yourself. You know, Christmas is only 7 months away, so load up on gifts for all your nieces and nephews, and we really appreciate that too, because we're doing this. Well, we're doing this for ourselves, but we like it when you guys appreciate what we're doing as well.
Yeah, we're doing it for fun, so let's make it more fun.
Produce
more episodes.
Give us a little money. That things are always more fun when they involve money. It's just the sprinkling on the top of the ice cream sundae. So jump on our website, stay in touch, send us a message, tell us a story. We love hearing from you guys. We love having that connection with our audience. It is a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. And we appreciate all those people out there who are saying to us that you enjoy what we're doing. And even give us feedback and criticism. That's valuable to us too. Very, very valuable. Great. So we'll talk to you next time. Peace. Hey guys, just a really quick notice. If you want some more information about the stuff we talked about in this episode, jump on theparadiseparadox.com/35. That's theparadiseparadox.com/35. So you can get all the links, all the things, interesting things that we referred to in this episode. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for your support. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for donating. Thanks for being a beautiful, unique, individual human being, and I'll talk to you soon.
Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer y tiempo de morir. Tiempo de nacer